Hello, welcome back. Welcome back to IT Performance. It has been a little while. Things have been moving along, busy at work, COVID and all that. So fun times are happening. I'm just going to tell you about my experience with my new motherboard and CPU. As you know, my old motherboard died and I had to get a new motherboard and CPU. Now, I got my first PC around 30 years ago, which had a 386 with the 386 with a 387 maths coprocessor. They're all different separate chips back then. They weren't all built into the same thing. Although video cards have taken over a lot of that sort of stuff these days. It was good. After that, I moved on to a 486DX2 a few years later. And after that was my first AMD experience with the K62 with 3D now. I can't say I was terribly impressed. It was my first and only AMD CPU up until now, and it was buggy. It didn't feel as tight as the Intel CPUs. There were sort of delays, and it was faster. Don't get me wrong, it was faster than what I had, but it just didn't feel the same. Didn't feel as stable. It crashed more often. So I ended up going back to Intel. I had one of the first i7s. I had an i7-920, and I had that for quite some time. It was impressive. Even though it was the bottom of the line i7 at the time, it was good. It was good. I had that for quite some time. After that, I upgraded to the i7-7700K, and that was rock solid. I could get 4,500 megahertz on all cores constantly without any problems. To be fair, I do have water cooling, so that may have helped. So that was a bit of a sad day when my motherboard died. What to do. There are all the new Ryzen 9 CPUs with all the crazy core counts, especially higher core counts than what you could possibly get with Intel, and they were meant to be just as good, if not better, than Intel at gaming. I was looking at getting a new motherboard and CPU, but I was wanting to hang out until early this year, as it so happens, because my motherboard died at the end of last year, and I wanted to wait until the beginning of this year when the new Intel CPUs came out, so I could make an informed decision on which way I wanted to go. But with my motherboard dying, it sort of forced my hand. I'm not really one to muck around and buy something just for a short period, so I went with the Ryzen 9 9500X and the motherboard with the 570 chipset. I didn't see the point in going for the 5950X CPU because the price increase compared with the performance increase, I didn't think was worth it. So ended up with the 5900X. Everything was in stock. Like, this was late November 2020. Everything was in stock. I could use the RAM from my old motherboard, so that wasn't a problem, and everything just slotted in. I could get my video card back into a 16 times PCI slot, although this is a PCIe 4 slot, but because of the video card is only PCIe 3, it clocks back to PCIe 3 automatically. As it happens, I'm quite happy with it. So I went with the AMD. The new AMDs don't come with coolers. They used to. They don't anymore. I already had all the water cooling set up there. So the price for a CPU water block was the same as a decent air cooler. So it was actually better for me to go with the water cooled CPU block. Plugged everything in, CPU, RAM, video card, hard drives, everything powered up, logged in, relicensed Windows because it thought it was installed on a different machine, which I suppose you could argue it is. Installed and installed all the AMD drivers. It seemed to go okay. It would I could benchmark it and do stress tests without any problems. But regularly, about once a day, if not more, depending on what I was doing, bang. Well, not bang, but the screen would go blank and the system would reboot. There were no blue screens of death. It would just reboot. And it was strange. In the event logs, whenever this happened, you'd get a event 18 WHE logger cache hierarchy error. Apparently plenty of people have this error. Nobody knows how to fix it. Some people say changing their video cards fix it. I can't do that. The motherboard doesn't support onboard video, and I don't have another video card to swap into it. So what do I? Anywho, 1050, no thanks. Anyway, I checked all the drivers, updated the drivers, update the BIOSes, put some beta BIOSes or alpha BIOSes in there. It seemed to help for a little while, but then it just wouldn't. It would just happen again. Happened probably the most while I was playing RTX Minecraft. So was it a problem with the video card? I don't know. I have had a problem with the newer drivers, especially when encoding with Premiere Pro. Didn't like the newer drivers. I haven't tried with the latest drivers yet. That will be done very shortly with this video, as a matter of fact. So with all the problems, I thought, man, this is why I don't buy AMD. Intel, I've never had anything like this ever with Intel. I wasn't terribly happy. So I decided to do probably what I should have done in the first place, and that was reinstall Windows. Yes. I had just been running the motherboard and CPU on the build of install of Windows that I installed using the Intel CPU. I'm not really sure how big of an issue that is. Well, obviously it's a pretty big issue, because since doing the reinstall of Windows, I've actually had, which is back in early December, it's now early March, I've had absolutely no problems. The system's been solid. No problems whatsoever. I am pleased that all the issues have cleared up, and I'm happy to say AMD make good CPUs. Otherwise I would have spent a lot of money for no reason. Yeah, very happy with it. As a matter of fact, I got my test, I dual boot to a M2 for my testing. Got that reinstalled, powered up, installed AMD's overclocking software and Afterburner, tweaked the video card overclocking, and just let the AMD software do automatic overclocking. for the CPU, and I get #1 in the world on Time Spy Extreme for machines with my CPU GPU combo. I have to be clear about that. It's only machines with my CPU and my video card, so the AMD 5900X and the 2080 video card, that I am #1, but I'm still #1 in that one, baby, yeah. Now, the only really real thing is, even with the water cooling, the temps seem to run quite high, higher than what the Intel did, where full load on all cores generally averaging, well, it's being reported as being around 62 to 65 degrees, but that's solid. It never may bump up to 67 every now and again, but not very often. Strangely enough, running single core, so when I'm like benchmarking single core, that spikes up to around 70 or so, which I thought was interesting. And with the water cooling, it certainly helps with keeping the frequency boosts cranking along. I have to admit, after years of being an Intel fan, and I don't hide that fact, for corporate machines, I still advise Intel to my clients. I am extremely happy with my new AMD. Changing to an AMD video card may take a while longer, but I am quite excited and interested in the RTX ray tracing side of things. So I'm happy with my I'm not happy with my 2080. I certainly want to get a newer one. The way stock's going, I will probably end up waiting for the 4000 series NVIDIA cards when they come out, if I can get one. So there we go. If something works, then I'm quite happy to give it a go and give it a try, and I will let people know when I'm happy with it. So Intel, I still like Intel, and if the next time I upgrade my machine, their CPUs are better than AMD's at the time, I'll probably switch back to Intel, but very happy with my AMD at the moment. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll try and get some more content out quicker than what I have been, but yeah, it's been a busy time. Okay, cheers, bye.